At a time when the world and America are under constant assault from within and without, there could be nothing more critical to our future and our protection than hearing the facts, using that free speech idea to the point of being able to spit out opposing views and not fear repercussions. One place in America that used to be a bastion of free speech and new ideas was the college campus. But a recent survey blows that out of the water with news that millennials, that next generation of leaders, the majority of those on college campuses, want less free speech and more conforming to what certain people want said and presented. We're joined by the editor-in-chief at campusreform.org, maybe the only website that doesn't bend to the whim of those seeking to change the facts, Sterling Beard, and the media reporter from the Washington Examiner who can help unravel why stories such as these are so often buried. Eddie Scarry joins us. Gentlemen, I want to thank you both for being here. And Eddie, I'll tell you what, seeing as you're a fellow member of the media here and on it every single day, I'm going to start with you. This is a little bit disconcerting to people when we look at this survey. It says 40% of respondents ages 18 to 34 said they agreed that offensive statements could be outlawed. If you're working in the media every day, that's a little frightening. Aren't we supposed to be able to hear everything and argue everything back and forth?
That's right. I mean, actually, that's why you're seeing a lot of this topic in particular resonating among the national press. I wrote a story on this a week ago about kind of a backlash from liberals in the media, people who typically come from a liberal point of view. They tend to cheer on more Democratic politicians. I think the best column so far came from Nicholas Kristof in the New York Times. He's a liberal, very liberal. And he wrote a column that was basically calling out liberals on college campuses. He said that this is a destructive tendency that comes almost exclusively from the left. He talked about how he's a pro-choice guy rather, and he's often invited to Christian campuses, Christian colleges, conservative places, and they welcome him there to give his point of view at least, and he credited them for that. So I think, and then you have people like HBO's Bill Maher, very liberal. He talks about this a lot, the political correctness, how damaging it actually is to public debate, how it's actually hurting liberal causes. So the best thing I think that's coming out of this so far, as someone in the media who enjoys kind of free speech, is having people that are known to be more aligned with liberal causes actually standing up against it.
Sterling, here's another thing out of this study that really bothered me. It said 22%, even if there's 1% of this, I don't know, this bothers some people. 22% said they believe the government should be able to prevent people from making offensive statements about minorities. Hey, look, we don't want to say anything negative about anybody. We get that. It's harmful, and it can really damage a lot. But shouldn't we still be able to discuss these things? And isn't that what college is for, to be able to get those ideas forward, discuss them, and make life better by not hiding behind a government edict?
Well, absolutely, and that's the thing, is it seems to me that so many college students these days do not understand the First Amendment. The American school system has failed these kids when it comes to understanding their basics. You see a lot of this now. You remember a couple of weeks ago when you had the Black Lives Matter protesters at the University of Missouri who were forcing out reporters, trying to create a so-called safe space. They don't understand the irony of their situation, that without free speech, without the First Amendment, there is no Black Lives Matter movement. As a matter of fact, it seems to me that what we need to be doing is teaching this book right here, Fahrenheit 451, a lot better in American terms, because it called the backstory to this, spoilers, the government didn't start the censorship in Fahrenheit 451. It was groups that claimed that certain things in books were offensive, and the government stepped in to follow their wishes after the fact. So that's the we need to be teaching American kids in high school, especially now in college. That's corrective action.
Well, but here's something else, and I'm glad you brought up Fahrenheit 451. Great book. Let's get to this very quickly. Pete Fricke on your website was talking about a story, and this caught my attention, that at the University of Kansas, the student body president, the vice president, the chief of staff, facing demands that they resign or face impeachment proceedings because they are not standing in solidarity with their black peers, not proclaiming Black Lives Matter. These are people telling them what to think. You will think this, you will do this, or you will get out of your elected chair. That's frightening. I mean, we're talking about a socialistic government here. We're talking about people telling you what you need to think. Is this on all college campuses, or just the intelligent ones, the ones who think that they're intelligent?
Well, there is that sort of, you're familiar with that old joke that some are so silly that only intellectuals could believe them? Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that situation. And of course, you've seen a large explosion of these sorts of protests and these sorts of movements all over the country. As a matter of fact, we have a tally been keeping up over at the Leadership Institute's campusreform.org. We've actually put them on a map for you, an interactive map, so you can take a look at it. But when it comes down to this, keep in mind the students that were being pressured to resign, they did not resign. It's unclear whether or not they're going to actually have proceedings initiated against them to kick them out of their offices. It seems unlikely, seeing as how the University of Kansas is not.
Good. I'll tell you what, I hope they do keep fighting it. That's the important thing. Fight this. I got a minute left, and Eddie, I need to get to you because let's wrap this all up here. Places like Amherst, Missouri, Princeton, Occidental, Georgetown. How fearful, Eddie, should we be that this is becoming a movement and that we are going to see freedom of speech severely curtailed at a place where it needs to be discussed every day?
I mean, yeah, this goes back several years now, decades even. You see this kind of crop up every now and then when it becomes a really big issue. You have speakers trying to come on campus from conservative backgrounds mostly, where you have a lot of protests, and it ends up being where the speaker can't actually come for one reason or another. You see it more and more, and I'm not exactly sure what the cause of the trend is. I mean, right now it seems to be, or at least the main theme here is the Black Lives Matter issue, which is very heated for a lot of people, so you get a lot of emotions coming out of it. But I think as far as seeing it grow out of this, I'm not sure. I think that there needs to be at least some sort of competency program about speech, about...
wait a minute now. Now you're getting into something entirely off it. Now, if you're going to talk about competency hearings for teachers, we're going to be here for another 3 or 4 hours here because that's another story altogether, you got to admit. We're all out of time, unfortunately. Eddie Scarry from the Washington Examiner, Sterling Beard, go to campusreform.org. Read what they've got there because the article about Kansas will open your eyes. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Have a great Thanksgiving holiday. Now, the truth about Thanksgiving and nothing to do with cranberry sauce is next, right here on The Hardline.